right, we're starting with a belt around our torso. We've got a looped up belt that's connected. And I want you to sit in front of your bolster that's up on, you're making a ramp for your spine. So elevate the standard size bolster with a rolled up blanket on the bottom and then a flat quarter fold on top, and sit in front of the bolster. Okay, so take the feet so they connect together, the soles of the feet, and first thing, maybe the blocks under the thighs. So have enough support so that it doesn't feel when you're sitting upright like it's a deep pull in the thigh muscles. It's like you're just creating these, of course, restorative shapes. Okay, so take the belt that's in a loop, it's connected, as I said, and all we're doing is placing it around the tops of the feet, right to the ankle, so it's kind of like a brace. I'm starting to notice, like, this is like, after you do something for so long, you start thinking different things about it. But it's not a very complicated setup here, right? I have the belt in a loop, I go overhead, it's around my hips, and then I slide it down so it's right at the eyebrows of the buttocks. Okay, you're not sitting on it, but it's really close. I've taken some classes where you're really close to sitting on it, and it's an interesting pull and stretch for the sacrum. So the final bone of the spine, the sacrum, it shouldn't be on top of that, but just below. And so you kind of want it around your padding. So whether it's your clothes or you, it should squish it. And then I have a sandbag nearby, and I'm going to lower back first on my spine ramp, and noticing maybe that the belt's a little snug. So I'm going to see if I can stay with that, because in time, your thighs are going to kind of release outwards, and probably that tension will subside and it might feel good. So try with some tension with the belt, and then notice what your attention does. Maybe it transfers to the breath, and you might need to loosen it or keep it. Sand could be on your feet. Now that you're on your back, that's probably tricky. But if you have one sandbag, I'm liking the sand from the heart to the belly on this one. I'm feeling like that's a nice support for getting the kind of the emphasis of the breath guiding down from my heart, so less chest breath down into lower breath in the torso, not just belly, but ribs too. Okay, so let the shoulders center back. Feel how the blades can lean back, and you can find a way to release kind of the hinge at the arms. Okay, because it is like, it's an elbow, but it's like this balance of the hands could be closer to your body, so you could have the elbows poking out. That could be a nice openness for the heart. And kind of feel that if the arms slide out straight to the sides, or if the elbows poke out and the hands are closer. Let your eyes close after you decide on the arm channels. The kind of the antenna for the breathing in your ribs, like where the arms are going to be. Maybe they're behind you and you're holding them at the hands. Maybe that is a little more exciting for your breath to start. And then settle in, closing the eyes back to the brain. And feel the movement of the in and out breath. Just kind of lay in this field of breathing and feeling the diaphragm movement, even though you might not identify with the actual diaphragm muscle in its journey, the tissues around it are felt by their movement. And you can feel the doming of the belly and the releasing back towards the spine. Relaxing the nose, the mouth. And for some of us, we might focus on breathing only with the in-breath through the nose, and some might go with the out-breath through the mouth, or all through the nose when you can, but never holding back on the breath. You might feel you can kind of traverse through the body different when you focus on breathing through the nose. It's kind of an inner science. But if it feels tightening to keep the mouth closed, then by all means, breathe out. Relax your breath. So we start with more of an even breathing, samavriti breath, even pace on both the in and out breath. You can always remove your sand. And now let the spine relax back into the base of the spine, the tail, because the back body is naturally arching. And then finally feel that combination of the in-breath, the movement in the front body goes forward. And then on the out-breath, it lands in the back body. So these propping ourselves up and breathing is really great, right? To feel the inside movement of the breath, the front space, landing in the back space. You know, that upper body has its own center right now, the heart. Feel from the heart versus maybe the brain so much in the practice. Feel from the center. And let's take any sand that we have off. If it happens to be on your feet, you'll just kind of shift it off and remove. Okay, but we'll move the sand and unbuckle, and or you kind of have to shift the belt off somehow, huh? But you're going to slide that off, and we're going to get a hold of a ball. If you don't have a therapy ball, because this is about a 7-inch ball, you could use a block. It's probably kind of the same dimension for what we're doing, but you can also use like a wadded up towel. But you're going to slide the blocks out and then just feel. Now, instead of trying to pull my feet higher, like that's my instinct, is to adjust. I'm just having the knees move up just where they were set with the feet. Knees go up. See how organically I can shift through this, and then bring the right ankle to the left knee and place the ball beside the upper outer left leg. It doesn't have to be at the top of the thigh, but to the side of that left thigh, and then really smush the ball under, or probably a towel would be good on that one, because the block could be kind of difficult, tense. So you're going to go a little bit back and forth. I want you to let the left foot at the bottom, just feel that you can rock to the side of the foot, and feeling that there's some, you know, suppleness to the bottom leg. Okay, so the top leg, the movement is going from figure 4 position, so the right ankle to the left knee, and then eventually I want you to just land in it. If your legs are far down, it's kind of hard to get the knee, the right knee with the left hand. I find this is, at least for my lengths. So I guide the left foot a little closer, slide it in, kind of adjust my right ankle, and then grab a hold of the right knee. And then it literally is like a grab and go. You're holding onto the knee. You want to find a kind place to hold your knee. Maybe it's below the kneecap. And just carefully guide the circulation across the side of this the right outer leg. So holding on with the left hand. If it's too much for your knee, it just is difficult energy, you could do the same thing without holding. Just give yourself some more props, maybe a block under your right foot. That could be helpful, and just feel that knee moving downwards. That's one variation, is the knee moves down, or the other one is that you're holding on to the knee and you're guiding it so that there's circulation building in the right hip. Imagine you feel something here in the hip, the right upper leg part, right? So just this creating the stretch reflex in the connective tissue. And we're working on soft tissues, right? The fascia, the tendons, the ligaments, that's soft tissue work. Even though you're holding the bones, right? So you're trying to navigate that reach with the leg part. And then before we come out, give a few moments of just feeling the belly move with the breath. Just give yourself permission to relax your eyes. Right hand can be relaxed. You really want to build a easeful range of motion with the breath in the torso. Really important for the core work we're going to do, so that you're aware of your center. Just naturally, movement with the inhale. And the exhale is movement. You won't want to just stay on the inhale. That would be dramatic, huh? Okay, now when we shift out, let's use that ball. Okay, so slide the left hand off the knee. Bring the knees back center so you can get the ball. And then you can keep your ankle crossed. It might feel a little difficult to put the ball under your right buttock with this kind of quirky position of the knee, but you can lift up your hips and place the ball right under the right buttock. You can find it easily when your leg is pointed up this way. I can find my rear with my ball, and then I just let my hips go side to side. Wag your tail. Right? It's more than just laying on the ball. You're moving so that you're actually creating, with that pressure and movement on the ball, right? That inspires that circulation into the glute medius mostly on this one. So feeling that your hips go side to side, and it doesn't have to hurt. In fact, I don't want it to hurt at all, right? The softer ball works on the soft tissues. It's a soft tool, right? Versus like a tennis ball or one of the firm ones. That's a hard tool. So that causes more bracing in the muscles, right? When you lay on something really firm, like even a foam roller, this is a soft tool to imitate that sense of stretch. Okay, induces the stretch reflex. Then uncross and have both feet. If you don't already have both feet down, maybe you did this already, but let the hips go side to side for a few more moments. And take the arms back overhead if the shoulders will permit. If not, they can stay by the sides. If your blanket feels too bulky on the top, you can slide it back. We don't want to cause more roundness in the neck here. So you might be adjusting with your neck by now. And then see if you can change this up. So work on this lower abdominal energy here. So I'm going to push into my right foot so my right glute really activates. I'm going to lift the left foot up. Cross that ankle to the right knee, and then push down to my right foot and move the ball to the upper outer right thigh, lower down. If I slid a little bit back off the bolster, I'll kind of nudge my sacrum back on up. And then knees to the right. You can go side to side, back and forth. But I do want us to spend just a little bit of energy on this, regulating the movement of the ribs, the lower abdominals, so feeling it move. And this area will get kind of warmed up for working with the posterior core. So take the legs so they shift to the right foot. So the bottom foot, it's not flat on the ground, it's turned. So you're on the bones on the side of the right foot at the bottom. And then maybe you hold the left knee. Maybe you feel like, no, that's a little too aggressive. So you could have the hands down. I think the challenge unless your knee hurts, you should definitely not hold the knee. But if you find it's just a challenge to get that knee and doesn't hurt, it does create a nice kind of balance and anchor when you hold on to the knee. So holding and then guiding, right? That kind of intricate muscular weave, right? It's not muscular, it's more of like the rotator in there, right? It's nerve sensation here that you're planting into. And I happen to have my block on the right side, and I'm letting my right leg rest on the block. I don't have it just flat, I have it contoured in under my right leg. I like that. Just happened to work out on this side. Okay, so if it's easier with the block, you might not want to do that because it is easier. But I'm navigating this movement of my torso with the breath. And awareness happens, right? It's in the moment. Kind of bathing the heart with the movement of the breath. That's key in a chest opener. Even though you might not feel like this is one anymore because you've done this so much, right? This might not feel like that's what's happening, but it's clearly an opener for the heart, the circulation back into the respiratory muscles. So simply hold the right hand, holds the left knee, and I like to guide the knee towards the right. With the block under my leg, it's kind of less intense, but I like to observe what happens with the ease in my hip, less bracing against it. If it's too intense, you tend to contract, right, your nervous system. So use props when you like. You feel the natural curve in the spine with the inhale. And that ease on the exhale, letting the spine rest back into the bolster. And now when you let go of the knee, just let it go and take a moment, let the hips center. So I'm going to move my knees back into, they're about hips distance, pretty wide hips distance here. Take the ball to the left side of the hip first. Push down into the right foot. Now, when you lift up, scooping the tailbone, like feeling that scoop is really hard on this. I find this, well, for me, it's difficult to get that scoop action in my pelvis, in my tail. So I'm just going to roll that ball under the left buttock. Once it's there, I'm not going to spend more energy on moving the tailbone. I'm just going to let the hips move side to side. Right, you could have the left ankle to the right knee. I kind of am a fan of just exploring without looking at what my knees are doing or my feet are moving. I just want to really get in touch with what's on my left buttock and move on it and into it so that it helps the circulation that actually eventually helps my low back, right? If this area is locked up, it's going to transfer higher. So just let the hips go side to side. Right? It affects the energy upwards, right? Whatever you're doing down at the glute, it's going to affect upward into the back muscles. Okay, give yourself a moment just to feel maybe the ball's too low, maybe you go a little higher, the attachment to the pelvis, the rim. When you've got a rim right at the pelvis, you might go, that attachment is kind of wound up, a little gripped up, webby. Well, that's just what you're thinking. Okay, so the abdominals, though, before we get out of this, I want you to notice that the hips moving side to side, it's a great energy, right, for kind of starting to stir up the pot, right, stir up the circulation in this heated area, right, in the abdominals. So below that, the muscles, right, is the organ, so it's a nice protector layer. But feel when you go left with your hips, really try to wag your tail to the left and then wag it to the right. And then feel the opposite, the front body, if there's any friction there in the stomach area to kind of keep this movement. Okay, I get one final push into the ball, and then we're going to move it aside. And you might take both arms just to reach back. I encourage you on this one just to let your blanket that's overhead, underhead actually, put it overhead. so that your neck now has to have its natural curve, right? You're not pushing into that contour at the brainstem, at the base of the brain, right into the upper cervicals. And just let your head center back, not rolling it, not twisting, just center back, neck relaxed. Okay, natural curves. Now arms open out, chest wide. Okay, it's so good to have a bolster under the spine to help the arms process that reach. Shoulders back, and then we're going to simply roll to the side. Any side's going to do. And you're going to come around, and we're going to phase two, or is it phase two? It's phase two. Let's call it phase two. You're going to face away from the wall, and you're going to want a wall for these shapes. Okay. So the bolster, I would recommend here, just kind of push it a little bit off to the side so you've got full support here. Unroll your blanket at the bottom, place one on top. If you need something under your knees right now, push the blankets to the back of the mat. You could put pad under the knees, but I want us to scoot enough away from the wall that you can reach the right leg back at the wall and let that leg lengthen. Just feel that. Now, if you need something under your knees, you've got to put something there. It's just life for some of us, right? If you're questioning that pressure. Okay, feel the right leg back so it's just reaching straight to the wall. You're trying to center the hips a bit here. Okay. Breathing. Okay, so right knee comes back down, left leg reaches back to the wall. Now, of course, we'll do opposite reaches, but first things first, feel when you're here how the spine tries to push and arch deeper. So I want you to press into the hands. If this is impossible for you to do on your wrists, what you could do is stack up a blanket stack with a bolster on top. You could do this kind of action. It's actually kind of nice. I like that. But you'll notice there's more arch in my back when I do that. It kind of swings in. Okay, so you have to kind of keep working with that stack. Now lower the left knee down and reaching the right arm open and scooping it under the left arm, so twisting. Inhale, open with the right arm, lift. Exhale, turn under the left arm. So if you're not sure, what is she doing? I have my hand down and I'm stretching the right arm out and then scooping under the left. So I'm trying to get this torso to turn its way. You don't have to touch the wall for this with your feet or anything. Okay, last time, when you span out with the right arm, lower the hand down and then switching. Left arm reaches out. Exhale, twist. Inhale, open with that left arm. And exhale. Let's do 3 more. So turning to the left, open out with the arm. Exhale, twist. And we'll be spending some energy with the exhale twist idea in a little while. So feel when you turn, come back center and reach the right leg back, but you don't want to be too close to the wall. So I want you to stretch so your foot prints into the wall. Oh, me might end up with some footprints at the wall after so long of doing this wall class, huh? Left arm is forward, opposite arm reaching, opposite leg back. Bird dog pose, right? So keep that energy in the torso, trying to push back into the foot. Okay, left hand down, scoop the right knee in towards your forehead, chin to chest. Inhale, reach the leg back. Chest forward, heart forward. Exhale, scoop the knee in, chin to chest. Inhale, stretch the right leg back. Exhale, scooping, chin to chest. Keep working with it. Last one. Push the foot back, natural arch. Okay, and then center back down. Okay, If you need to take a child's pose in between, this is a good time for that, to take an ease on the wrists. If you do so, just let the hands relax, your forehead down. If this is too much of a strain, let your elbows be on the floor so the palms can open, and simply shift the hips a little bit back. Forehead touches the ground. I love that one. Forehead touches down, neck lengthens. Okay, now come back up. Left foot reaches back to the wall, and make sure that you're in an easy range. Maybe push the knee a little forward on the ground, and right arm is forward. Yeah, so give it some time, just feeling where you can create the pose, right? So it's a held condition, but you're not holding your breath. So when you're reaching with the right arm, that natural arch through the spine. This is definitely a heat-inducing shape, isn't it? All right, for the hottest day of the week. Okay, so right hand comes down, and left knee draws in towards the forehead, and reach the left foot back. I like to touch the wall on this one. And draw the knee in, and stretch it back. Not just the knee, but the whole thing. Motion the knee in, and stretching it back. Natural arch through the spine, and motioning the knee in. Left knee, taking the leg back. Inhale, arch. Exhale, round. Okay, now center the left knee and scoot back so that you can get your bolster in. And we're going to take a moment here with the bolster lengthwise, center of the mat. And I think you should be able to have your feet touch the wall for this. So maybe scoot your blankets back in. Let's get this measurement right. So when I lie down on the bolster, I want to be able to touch the wall with my feet. Okay. All right. Take a moment in crocodile. Elbows wide. Lift the ribs for a moment, and kind of, you're trying to get the ribs to expand out on the bolster. These bolsters are good for lots of things. So my elbows are wide, so my wrists are so happy to be just placed together, resting. And forehead is down. Okay. So my knees are going to rest down, but I do want to make sure that you know that you do want to be really close to the wall. So if you find that your feet barely touch, scoot farther back. You could probably not be too close to the wall on this one. Even if your legs walk up the wall a little bit, that's better than not. I want you to have that emphasis. Go ahead and keep the elbows wide, the forehead down, but just trace the spatial outline of the knees resting. Okay, the feet could be a little wide at the wall, far out, and feel the natural movement of the breath. The pressure, maybe as you breathe in through the nose, moving into the ribs. I feel most of it in my belly area with my breath. It's where I feel the width of the breath. Now press the feet back into the wall. Okay, the balls of the feet, that's the kind of your spring board for your feet into your legs and then up into the core. So just lift your chest up a little bit so you're not pushing so much of your chest into the bolster now. So it's a natural arch. Okay. Now slide the elbows down, push the blankets back or forward, and place the forearms down into Sphinx pose. So elbows are down, feet are pushing back into the wall. Now it's not my heels. I don't have that load in my feet. So it's the balls of the feet at the base of the wall. You could walk them up the wall a little bit. That can be interesting for the muscles in the core, but I find that to be a conundrum in my the energy in my low back. It's a lot of low back strength to walk them up the wall. It's like a perpetual Shalabhasana, right? So you're holding locust pose for a while. So feel the Sphinx pose, elbows down, feet pushing, feet are at the base, knees are maybe up. Okay. Inhale. I hope you've already breathed in. And exhale. And so feeling that circulation through the waist. Okay, slide the hands back so the elbows are closer to the sides. Although they would love to go out and kind of wing. Elbows are close to the sides. Okay, now into the locust pose. So the arms are back besides you, and the shoulders are back, and the chest is forward. Okay, back muscles strengthening. This is back care 101. Although it feels like a lot of work, it's great for our back muscles. Especially if they're starting to round a lot, this area is going to be probably a little bit sleepy. May not be strong. Okay. And then you lower the hands down and then take an upward facing dog with a bolster. Now, I'm going to choose my bolster horizontal. I like the upward dog with this bolster across, and then I lean into it. It just feels a little bit more comfortable for me. Some people do this without the bolster. Some of the bolsters lengthwise, you choose, but press into your hands. Feel like you've got these wide hands and the elbows are lengthening and the chest is forward, just forward. You don't have to position it as high to the sky as possible, just that forward. Okay, bend the elbows, bend the elbows, push the feet back and try to lift the knees a little bit off the ground, if not all the way off the ground. Strengthening the low back. Okay. They're definitely big muscles, low back, but they're smaller as fibers go. The big upper back is bigger muscles. So when you drop forward and round, that's going to take over the muscle strength. So work on that strength in the back. And then come back to the hands and the knees, pressing the hips back, round the back into cat pose. The knees could be wide. If they seem to be splayed out a little bit, you might scoop them in. Inhale, arching the spine. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow, so arching the spine. And exhale, cat pose. Okay. Now, scoot a little bit away from the wall and reach for your blankets and pull them closer in on your mat towards you. And then you'll move your bolster so it's closer to them, and we're going to take side sage. So after some of that core balance, right, we're going to work here. So we're going to lean into our left hip. All is well now. In the restorative session, we're back to something we know. So if you want to have a block overhead, add one at the highest setting. You could also stack your two blocks so it seems like a more stable support for you. This can work too, because let's see, that's about the height. I sometimes like a block, so that one block, so I can just move it around. It's easier to just push it. So up to you. So let's get that sand again. So we're going to grab a hold of our sand. Whew. And now we're going to emphasize the left leg, not just the knee, but the thigh. I slide it up so it's next to my bolster. It's not on top, but next to it. Right leg stretches back, so it looks like I'm on my side in a leaped position. Restorative leap. Sand on the side or where it's not going to fall. Rest your head on the blankets and then let your right arm just kind of wander. You could wander the chest open. You could lower the hand down on the block, and you certainly don't have to have it straight overhead. It could go a little kitty corner. It could go hand down on the other hand, or the blankets, or the bolster, or the side. all is good. Right, you find where you're okay with that range of motion in your shoulder. It's also affecting the chest muscles, right? It's the ribs. Now, let's say your arm is best to be down, besides you not overhead. You might feel a deeper sensation with your ribs in the breath. It's a different pull. When the arm is over, it's tighter across the ribs than when the hand is down. They're both good. So I would find a position where you really can feel your breathing in a way that you can relax. So your muscles get that memory of in and out breath with concentration and depth. And hey, letting your head relax is really important on this. So if you're kind of lifting your head because you're trying to hear, I think our head just naturally lifts up when there's some sound too. So you let your head rest it some more. Breathing slow. And there may even still be more neck holding, so just really letting your head relax, like you're trying to nap here. But there's no holding. Okay, now we have the side in this kind of natural reach. Even if you're not striving with your arm overhead, you still are reaching with your side. Maybe little parts of it aren't quite getting the deepest pull, like the upper ribs, but you can feel it. It's kind of the sand persuades it to move a little bit down and lengthen. So when we come around, I want us to take a core, maybe what you might be used to with some core work. So you're going to slide the sand off. I let it just fall. And you're going to use the leaning down to your left arm as a way to stretch the torso. So I'm leaning down. It's a side stretch still when I come up. I just kind of reach my leg back a little bit. And then when I turn, I'm going to bring my right leg towards my left leg. So it's kind of easier to get myself to sitting. It sometimes works. Sitting, it's kind of a tipping, right? You're leaning back. And then just add the ball or a block between the knees. A ball or a block are probably similar for this one. My feet are apart. And I don't want to stack my feet on top of each other. I want the separation. But lean back to your bolster. So your elbows are on and squeeze and release. I think the ball is better though, because you can't really squeeze a block. It's not going to respond. So squeezing, and close your eyes if you're possibly comfortable with that, and just feeling, the kind of weird energetic in the abdomen on this one. You can kind of feel the confusion of the doming of the abs. I think this is a confusing one. Okay, so I'm going to relax the grip. I'm just going to inhale so my belly naturally relaxes. Like the ball is expanding. And then as I exhale, I'm going to draw the belly back towards the spine, squeezing the ball. Okay, so inhale and exhale. You kind of have to do squeezing action on both, right? You can't just squeeze the ball and do nothing with your midsection. It's got to have some relationship to going back. And maybe not spending too much tripped up energy about it. You just kind of just try squeezing and see what happens in the core. Okay, now when I squeeze the ball the next time, I'm going to actually have some energy in the lower abdominals, which is kind of interesting. It tend to protrude when you get up. So feel when you come up that you're drawing the abdominals back towards the spine when you squeeze the ball, and then stretch forward with the arms. Okay, try to just maintain that you're sitting. We're not leaning back anymore. And then move the ball out, and you're going to reach the arms under the legs and slide the feet in and lift the feet up. Okay, this is a pretty simple one. I just scoop up the hands in prayer position between the knees and lean back. And now just work on lifting the heart and feel if your feet can lift up a little bit. See if you can get the energy of lifting the feet, lifting. Okay, lower the feet down. That means all the way to the ground. Grab your belt, and let's take a simple variation here. We're just gonna keep it unbuckled. We're gonna grasp onto the belt goes under my feet, and then I just kick the feet up. You know, just kind of see where you're at, where your coordination is with your abdominals. Just let them move just comfortably. You might find, oh, I have a lot of, maybe some muscle memory of doing this kind of thing. This probably goes way back. Putting your feet in a belt and kicking them up. Maybe when you're on your back, you do this, but feeling the quality up into the upper thighs, it usually drains down to the hip flexors, like quickly on this one. Okay. Now lower down the feet. We're going to take horizontal major center opener, is what I like to call it sometimes. Place a block next to your hip, and then lower back and lift up your hips and place the block under your pelvis and lower back. Stretch the legs down. Oh, you might get lucky and get the wall. It just happens to be close for you, or you scoot down. I like how it reinforces the connectivity, but it's not for everyone to touch the wall. It doesn't work for everybody. Not necessarily because your space you don't have yourself there, but not everyone likes it. So purposely have the blankets, either one or two. Two is too many. Get rid of the top one. Just kind of feel that you can roll the shoulders. Naturally, they just drop back and the waist lengthens. What's even better on this is to put sand on your thighs. So if you're feeling so inspired and the sand's not too far, right? Place it across and you have to muscle the sandbag up. A little tug of war there with my sandbag. Cross the thigh lids. Trying to incorporate this length. This is what you're getting at with the core work, is I want to feel like the center part of my body kind of has a life force all its own, right? It gets kind of dull. The dull core. Okay, ribs are alive. All right, letting your head rest back. Okay, so sensing the length in the front of the legs. Just sitting in a chair shortens the psoas by, I think it's at least 3 inches. So, and that's our natural living experience, is sitting often. So it's just reality. So getting these lengthening shapes for the psoas is so good. Even if it's the present moment, you feel it, right? There will be some muscle memory and also some hydrating motion in those tissues here. So they don't shrink wrap the other way all the time. Even when you stand up, you can just stretch a leg back and press into the ball of the foot and get that length in the psoas. Okay, feel if you just let the pose do its work, not having to tug on the tissues and try to pull the belly too far back. Just let it move with the breath. Okay, if your back gets a little tight, you can walk your feet in, even with your sand on the thigh lids. Works just fine. I like to come out of the pose by bending the knees, walking the feet in, and then feel how that gravitational pull goes to my heart, the pulling action, the pulling back to the heart, the endocrine glands in the throat, and then to the brain. It kind of it induces a little different state. You know that state when class is finished and it's a little fuzzy, a little centered. Lots of interchanges. Okay, now getting ready for side sage on the other hip might take you into your own little personalizing how you get there. So sand goes away for a moment to the side. And then as I lean to one side, I move the block. I like to get rid of it right away. And then roll on my bolster. So my torso gets that stretch. Whew, that feels good. Okay, so, and I forgot to mention, but these would be good with the round bolster too for your side sage and your horizontal. So maybe one of these classes I'll get with it and have directions perfectly for everything. But until then, you can always add your bolster now, your round one. But otherwise, this is fine. So in these bolsters, I think most of us are practicing pretty firm bolsters, firmish. Maybe they're a little mushy, but they're going to give enough width, right, for this torso. So it's not going to shrink. I don't want any shrinking rib areas. So I'm going to stretch the left leg back, put the ball on the inside for you, up to you, if you use a ball. Let's say you don't use the ball and your leg is down. Just the awareness is that the hip is going to turn in. It's going to rotate the femur head. And if you can stretch it really far back, then it's fine. You don't need the ball. Some of us are fine with this. It doesn't hurt our knee at all. But I want you to try to get the front of that left thigh to lengthen. Okay, so the ball could be helpful to get you to have a little bit more oomph. Lower down onto that right side and get that sand on the side. It could be tracked from the whole side frame. This is a good one. Okay, that across the hip. I kind of like this too, layering it down. Sometimes it feels good to push the sand farther down on the thigh. I mean, if it falls off, it's okay. It's not a big emergency. It's just get it back on. And then if the ball's been in a different spot than you're used to, then maybe it's meant to be, maybe it's not. You can play with that ball with your other foot usually to move that around. We're not asking you to paint with your foot, but just using that ball to maneuver, that foot to maneuver the ball. I don't know if the ball maneuvers the foot or not. Okay, stretch the left arm overhead to a block near you. And the right arm is kind of it's just not doing much, right? It's resting between. It's passive. So one side can interact with the breath, the left side. And let your head rest into the blankets. Okay, some of us will rest better towards the back of the cranial area. Some of us will find, oh, I finally found how I can rest on my head to rest my neck. So for me, when I push down to the side of my head, like closer down to my ear, I sometimes just have holding patterns and I am still trying to grip up in my neck. So you might try rolling a little to the back. Give yourself permission to rest your head. Just see if that's better. And maybe it may be the opposite for you. You won't know till you try, huh? So feel that reality of the weight of your body, the whole thing, into the props, floor and all. Feeling that length in the breath. Feel the weight, and if the sand starts to fall because you put it on a place that was kind of vulnerable to droppage, you might have to shift it. You want it to be weight bearing onto you so it really presses in. Okay, now with these elongating patterns, right? Some of them more than others that we've done the last 20 minutes. We're going to go back to more of a smaller patterns that might feel a deeper transformation right in the center. So just coming out of this one, noticing one thing I want you to kind of relate to is the right leg is kind of lackadaisical right now. I mean, it's not really that tied up in the pose. It's just centered on the hip. But we're going to keep that when we come up. So the right leg's going to be the base. Is that right? I think that's what I want to do. Okay, so slide the sand off over to the right. Okay. Rotate. Rotating is rotating. So make it kind of a little bit obnoxious, just movement. This is only going to be good for that center. Turn it and come on up. Right, no one else is going to turn it like you, right? Your center. So sit on up on the bolster and take your blankets behind you really close in. So tuck them next to the bolster. Get your block in front. Both blocks, I think we're going to want them. And now we're going to do a seated twist variation, and we are going to emphasize maybe pigeon. Now, some of you might be not practicing that pose, so I'll show an alternate, okay? So just be aware it's for everyone. Okay, so right thigh was down, the last position, so we had it kind of leaning in. So I want you to let the right knee stretch forward, so it's not just pulling the knee in, but my right foot touches the bolster, it's on the ground, it's not on it. And then I'm going to center my sitting bones, so I kind of draw the flesh out a little so I can feel my sitting tuberosities there. And then let's put a block low in front. It can go really far forward under your left foot. Right, so it's going to kind of pull the side of the leg a little. Okay, now this is an option. You can put a ball under your right knee. So if it's like that's cozy, then you might be doing some different variations. Okay, so you are going to decide this. I'm going to put the ball under my right knee, right where it hinges. So it's right under the ball will be right under here. So this is obviously my elbow I'm showing. But it would be kind of, if you could call it a knee bow, right? Your knee is kind of a knee bow. All right, our new anatomy word today is knee bow. Arm bow and knee bow. Okay, stand on the top of that right thigh. And I want you to take your other block. I hope you got some space besides you and you're not cramped in the corner, but I'll do the best I can. I'm at my block under my right hand. I'm going to push out to my door here. And I'm going to stretch the left side. Oh, just side stretch. So hand is on block besides my bolster. I just push it out. My block is this height, second. Some people might go without a block and just have the hand on the floor. They just like that deeper stretch. But you're going into the kind of centered, the downward support for your twist. You got sand on you, you're grounded. You're at least grounded till class is over, huh? You gotta stay and do practice. Okay, so let the length happen. Now you can turn the waist down to the right, you can turn the waist towards the sky, but come up and let the left hand reach back to the blanket, the right hand to the left knee. This is gonna be two versions I'm gonna offer. So you can have your twist and keep your foot on your block, that's fine. But you could also take the ball out. Some of us might do this. Cross the left foot over the other side of the right knee, but try to keep this width. So I don't want to pull my right knee too far in the midline. I want to keep the width in my hips. I don't want to shrink it. So when I hold on to the twist, I'm going to hook the right arm to the left leg. And then I'm really working on getting that lift in the core. Okay, so if you have your foot on the block, and your ball under, that's a good choice. It's interesting dynamic, right? I want to have the same support here. This is going to feel maybe more in the hip if my leg is crossed over the other leg. So it's a supported seated twist, right? Marichasanas, right? The Marichasana poses. So, Lord of the Fishes, right? So you want to have a feeling of lifting and twisting. Find that inner lift and twist. Okay. All right, now relax your pressure with your right arm to that left leg, hand or elbow, whichever one, and then come back in center. And we're going to take the left leg back into pigeon. Now, some of us might not do pigeon, but here's one thing you could do if you're kind of on the fence, but it's kind of working. So when you take the left leg back, if it's because of the hinge at the knee, like it's just tight, you can also sit up and put a ball under your right rear, literally, right under the lower part of the rear is where the ball would go. You don't want it to go too far back because it will just come out. It'll just drop out. So feel that leaning position and lower down. Now this might work. It might feel like less of a pigeon pose, but kind of nice to keep the hips lifted. So those of you that want that, or just stay with your traditional hip down on the bolster, a little deeper stretch. Now, if you're not going to do pigeon like that, I want you to take your right foot forward on the block, okay, and no sand, and simply lean forward. So if the hip is a little bit, it's not the hip, it's probably the knee that prevents you from going back. Put a ball under the left knee, and then working on that right hip stretching. If you're close to the wall, you can reach the wall, right? That's nice to do. Okay, sometimes I like this because I have more reach with my ribs, kind of hydrating the rib area. So kind of play with that. Okay, so you're either right leg pigeon or your right leg simple Sukhasana, simple cross-legged forward bend. Okay. All right, give a few more moments. If you're in pigeon and you want to come up a little bit to coordinate that strengthening in your low back, if it doesn't feel like it's pinchy or sore, but a little bit of strength, then maybe practice that. Here's the challenge though, sometimes we tend to really dent in our back. So if you're really feeling that pressure, you might bring your hands out wider on the mat and work with a little bit of cat pose, right? So you're broadening your back. That feels kind of nice with the breath and the ribs. Back broadeners. Okay, so centering back on up. Swing the left leg forward. If you're already with the right foot onto it, the block, you're set for the next pose. You're already ready. Okay, so center on your seat. Okay, take the sand onto the left thigh. Some days the sandbag feels heavy. You can barely get it lifted and crossed over with ease. So I'm going to put a ball under my left knee just to show the support here. So even if you don't use it for your twist, you might start with it so it gives a little bit of that stretch reflex for the side tissue of the thigh. And then block to the left and slide it out. And once that slides, you coordinate the movement to the right side and reach. It's like slow motion falling, right? It feels like that, like I'm slow mo fall. Okay, now if this is too much on your wrist, there's a fix for that. I can put my block higher and place it closer and put my elbow on it. It's an easy fix. And if it hurts your wrist, you shouldn't be pushing firm into it for the joint reason. So take it easy and feel those larger zones to stretch. The right arm reaches. You can turn your head to the left and down. You can also bring your right arm behind your back. Okay, so really scan the focus on the side band of the right waist here. That side band, the lower back band. Okay, now when you come up, you've got to use your kind of momentum of swinging the arm. It's helpful to use the whole gait of the arm to move you. I think it's weird because when you're standing and walking, you know your gait, your rhythm with your legs, but the gait with the arm is different unless you're cruising around on all fours, right? Okay. So when you come up, now try to turn to the right, left hand to right knee. Now this is the one version. Okay. Version 2 would be to move the ball aside and cross the right leg over. So I might have to reset my sand a little bit, help my right leg over to the left. And now I want to keep the broadness in my back. Hook the left arm to the right leg and turn. Yeah, this is really interesting puzzle work for your mind, right? So all the coordination, right, in the bones, if you kind of follow the sequences, you just follow it like, you know, you're learning to put together a puzzle. But when you rotate, there's little pieces that you're wanting to refine the circulation in. So it's a living puzzle. So you're lifting up the heart with the in-breath. You're turning the ribs to the right. And then you want to stay vital here versus hoping the pose is over. The pose begins when you want to get out, right? See if you can find a way to survive and really respect the pose. I mean, these have traditions. These are been taught for a long time. So there's something about them. Okay. All right, some of us, the foot is on the block, so the hand could be on the knee. Okay, now when you come out, you're going to shift forward. You might want to set up for the next pose by maybe tipping forward, put your right foot back on the block if it was on the floor besides your leg, and lean forward. Just kind of feel, kind of working into the groins. In this groin area, the right is going to flush out, right? The flesh is going to stretch back. So I'm going to take the sand off and stretch the right leg behind. And then reach the hands down and push into your hands to mobilize the torso forward. You know, think lizardy here, like you're using your levers to lengthen your torso and your gills, right? Okay, there's one option. Some of us are going to be down. Some of us might use the ball because it was okay, but gosh, that ball was nice. You have to lean forward and put the ball to the under that left buttock, and then it just kind of, it boosts it. It's a rear booster, isn't it? Okay, otherwise you can sit forward, left foot forward onto the block and lean forward, whether it's hand to the wall, hands reaching. That can feel like a far stretch, so you might need your ball under your knee. Right, you might need to have your hands on your ribs to support you from feeling like you're going too far. So you're either here, left leg forward on block, or left leg into the bolster on pigeon. Now it's called on pigeon. Okay, take a few more breaths here with that shape of left hip work. Now when you come up, if you're in pigeon, swing the legs forward, well, at least the right leg. You come out from here, you have that length, and you'll bring the leg forward. And then let's all come down so that we're going to move our bolster forward. Let's take the hips back on the blankets if they're still close enough. It's kind of nice. I'm going to push my bolster forward. Watch out, you don't want to fall on the ground too fast here, but you're going to slide so the bolster is next to a wall. It's actually at the wall. It's not just near it, it's at it. It's touching the base. Okay. Now, when you are leaning back, I want you to give a try so the feet start on the bolster. They're close together. They're right next to each other. And when you do lift, I want you to bring the elbows down and take the feet up the wall. Okay, so I'm in a piped position, right, for the abdominal work. Okay, now the elbows are back. You might slide them farther back because you think they're behind you, but they're sliding under you. Okay. Okay, so feel the feet touch the wall. If you need to go a little farther apart, that's fine. You kind of have to try it out. Like feet a little closer, feet a little farther. What's the goal here? Okay, so I'm on the back of the pelvis, right? I'm below the tailbone, right? I'm right at that area, the tail area, just right there. So I want you to let the chest lift. Remember fish pose, those poses, right? So it's that lift of the chest, but it's a workout in your upper body. And then you're going to bring your head back center. So for me, head center above the spine, what I think is above my spine, is better for me than pushing back for my neck. And then lower the feet down to the bolster, slide a little farther forward, scoot your hips down to the bolster, and then lower onto your back and get rid of this whole blanket stack up. Go with one as high as single fold, not any higher. Make sure it's really low. Yeah, don't trick yourself. Low blankie. Okay. I have an extra fold in mine, sorry. Okay. I get kind of upset about blanket folding. Okay, so I think it's there. Now, feet up on the wall and arms. Go ahead and take your arm position so that they're up to the ceiling. Now, if this is nagging your shoulders, you can always have your arms down on your thighs. Okay, that's okay. So I want you to get that length in the back of your head, maybe nod your head a little bit, just to get that length. You got it connected at the brain, actually not the brain stem, the occiput. So the shelf at the back of your head is touching down firm. Now I'm going to push into my feet, and then I'm going to slowly start to peel the seat off the ground, and then it's actually peeling up into my back a little bit. So I'm pushing into the wall firm to lift the hips up in what you think of as just a bridge pose. Now reach your arms slowly back overhead, over the shoulders. Lengthen the neck even more now and lift the hips up a little bit higher. There's always more to do on this one. So just feel that lift of the hips and then lower the spine and feel that thick attachment from the ribs into the arms as you lower the arms down. I try to quickly go at the end with the arms. Okay. So now when you lift the hips up this time, just lift the arms back overhead and then walk the feet down to the bolster. And then lift the hips up. Keep lifting the spine, strengthening. You can always take a break. And then exhale, lower down. Hopefully this position with the bolster beneath your feet feels pretty easeful. So inhale, lift, drawbridge. Good. Lengthen the front body. And exhale, lower down. Of course, right? Gravity will have you. So when you lower down, feel that last set of vertebrae, the thick ones, the lumbars, they kind of go down on like in one big clump sometimes. They're funny, right? Because they're plumper vertebrae. So next time you lift up, that plump vertebrae should feel like it's pretty well heated up. Take a block under the back of the pelvis so it's about the second setting straight across, okay? And then let your pelvis rest on it. So where is it on my pelvis, right? It's again, it's kind of the eyebrows of the buttocks on this one too. I definitely don't want it low on my buttocks. That's not a good one. And if anything, you're probably a little bit higher than you think you ought to be. It's better. I don't want it on your vertebrae, like right up on the spine, okay? So arms are overhead or out to cactus. It's up to you. It's completely up to you. And then take the legs up one at a time. And then feeling that lower belly spread horizontally. So instead of it getting caught and pushing straight down and prolapse, it simply spreads a little bit farther out because gravity drops it, right? So I'm trying to let that skin, that connective tissue, have a different association with reality, at least for the temporary yoga practice, right? But it's still, the muscles will have that memory. Right now it's a good thing. And feel if the feet can separate a little bit more than they would at the wall, because we are going to do the wall one. So separate them more than you would be at the wall. See if you can take that leg position a little bit farther without the belts, no belts holding onto the feet. And then feel the ribs, try to catch up with the movement. The farther out they go, right, you're tracking flexibility and rib stability. So you don't want to get caught not breathing here. Right, the Zoom will catch you if you're not breathing and send you a chat, huh? I don't know what it would do. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, bring the feet back in together and then bend the knees and lower them down. And we got to get to our hip crossover. So lift up the hips and slide the block out. Lower down the spine. And you're going all the way to the base spine. Yeah, even if this is an extra minute or two, it's worth the spine, the time in your spine. Okay, it's the spine tour. Okay, scoot back, take the blanket so it's a little bit higher. No flat blankets on this one. It's because it helps keep the shoulders down too. Okay, so take the crossover. I prefer the bolster on the side of my mat, on the ground besides it for the crossover. Some people like this crossover. They like the leg on the foot on the bolster and crossover. Yeah. I think this is a longer scent in my back. So when I put the bolster to the side, I lower my right leg, I bend it, and I swing the left leg across. I feel like it goes higher up in my back for the stretch on the side weave of the ribs. And then I add the ball to make the balance in the sacrum. Okay, sacral balance. And then gradually pull the sand. Now the sand might feel better on areas that you didn't even think it would. You know, some people have trouble getting the chest to be open. Maybe the sand is on the chest area. Maybe it goes here. Good. You might put it just on the arm part. And of course we know about the hip one, but it's okay to try other stuff with that, even if you have one sandbag. You might keep that for a few, minute and then move it to the hip, but then it gives you the impression of opening the chest. And let your eyes close back into the brain, wherever the arm association is with the left and the right. And the final spinal, just really finding a way to personalize your practice, what you need in these last few poses. Try to strive with movement internally, expansive, contractive. And feeling that heart kind of bathing in the pose, right? Centering the heart, opening the heart. Just feeling generous to yourself, right, with this practice. Now, without disturbing the upper heart chest openness, simply slide the sand. If it's on arm, you might slide it over to the right side. And as you move the ball, keep that upper openness and then swing the knees back center. If you happen to be moving your bolster, take a moment in between. You can place the bolster now carefully to the left side. And again, not disturbing the chest very much. And then taking the ball now to the right side. And I'm going to roll on my waist. Now, if I can twist my waist around, because that's probably a place we're used to having some pretty good mobility. But the chest area, it's pretty stuck going forward during the day. So use these shapes where you're going back with your chest and opening the heart and encouraging, especially as we get to our inversion, moving just that relation of the movement of the extremities, the circulation there back to the heart, so the heart can rest and restore. It's a great shape that we're moving to for the vascular system. So it may not feel like we're out running, but internally there's a nice interaction going on to support the heart health. Just being open and aware. If the breath feels kind of stuck and it's all chest breath, you might release your twist a little bit. Maybe you move the left shoulder out. Sometimes you have to change the wind up in the back so that you can feel the breath lower in the torso. Your head might gently move to the right. It might stay centered. Right? Don't mess with what's meant to be. So if it's meant to be and you're very content with your head right in the middle, that's fine. Just existing inside. Right, tune in, right? It's screen free. Well, there's a screen we're with the class, I guess, but right, we're really turning in the focus inside to all the different layers of attention. It's pretty interesting. Roll the right shoulder back and down. If it gets numb or tingly in the armpit chest, well, there's some information there, huh? So a little less reach of the arm. It's going to be about the muscles opening before the nerves, right? So you've got to get the bigger pieces to open first. Okay, now slide the ball, roll it out, and let's get ourselves to the wall with our legs up. So you're going to slide your sand to your wall and then easily roll left or right if you're on the other side and place your bolster snug at the wall. And even coming up that height probably feels a little blood pressure shift. So be careful, right? When you come up to the wall, it's going to pull back towards the brain. So I lean to the side and then I swing my legs up. Now, I think people have their own way of doing this. Some people have an interesting way where they get the legs up and then they scoot the bolster under. Now, I haven't found very much success for myself with that, but you might. If you have an eye pillow, that should be nearby, okay? Sometimes I dig my heels in and I can lift my hips and kind of scoot my tailbone under, and then it gets closer. Of course, it's partially a hamstring event too. It's not just a inversion, right? It's hamstring circulation, it's legs upside down, it's all the blood flow to the heart, which is great because the heart gets to actually rest here. That's why the heart rate lowers in this pose. So, and we know that. That's our only science test that we have going on this pose. So, as far as the baroreceptors right in the throat, it's slowing down and lowering the pressure, right? So, let the legs have enough separation, the sand on the feet. If it's a little awkward with the sand, you could go without. It just doesn't work for you. It's not required. But it's a nice input. You can also have sand on your ribs or on the belly. You can choose that sand option. But resting the arms open. And just receive all this practice today. See if you can find some moments of receptivity. It's an active relaxation. The legs up is not a passive one. That you have some attention to moving the fluids, right? The blood from the extremities back to the heart. Endocrine glands get this nice bathing, right, in the thyroid, the parathyroids, this nice little soak. So just soak it up. Feel the back of the brain lengthening, resting the eyes. Eye pillow or not, right? You have eyelids to close. They're your little pillows. Breathing in through the nose, resting out through the nose or the mouth. Either way is fine. Now, is the weight into your hips even, right? So notice the weight from the sand. Do you put more weight in the left or the right hip? So feel the tailbone rest into the bolster, the natural arch in the spine, and start to shift the feet just a little bit away from the wall. So you are using the lower abdominal. It's kind of back lower abdominals. For me, I feel like there's still work to do. Right? When I move my feet off the wall, I feel like it just tickles that lower abdominal tundra. It's just a little bit of energy in the lower stomach, in the organs. The kidneys get a great amount of circulation here, hydrating the tissues, and then bend the knees. If your sand is on your feet, you can either toss it overhead or take a moment, do some leg presses if you're feeling so much energy, and then slide the sand or toss it off to the side, hug the backs of the legs. And if your feet are a little tingly, circle them. This is a good idea. Likely they're going to have some change in circulation from reversing the flow back to the heart. That means it did it. Right? If your feet are tingly, they're definitely cooled off. And then with that lengthy stretch in the back, just visualize that that can continue, that back reach. Rock a little side to side, cannonball shape here, massaging the digestive tract. Gratitude for a healthy experience in my body. So as I roll to the side, let my arms push one at a time, and then bring yourself around to sit on your bolster next to the wall or at the wall, and feel where the hands can go towards each other. So feel where right and left side, and then how they're always merged in the back, even though your back is kind of together, right? There's two sides to it, but the hands are certainly different. So feel from one hand to the next, the touching, the immersion of the roots of the fingers, and then just gently bring the thumbs towards your heart center. Feel the heat in the hands, motioning. And as we inhale together to close practice with appreciation for myself, for my body and its ability to regenerate, take a deep breath in and exhale. Bow.